welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge cycling podcast with Benji Naesen. I cannot believe it's the 13th of March, 12th of March, where Benji is, wherever that is, and we're getting cycling this good, not just in one race, but in 3 separate races on a Friday during the day. And yeah, I feel like we're very lucky. And I'm worried, Benji, that people are going to join. You know, everyone's a hardcore fan pretty much that follows this podcast. But then people will join for the Tour de France in July. And sometimes the Tour de France is not as exciting as Tirreno Adriatico. And they'll be like, what's all this fuss about? So I just hope it's exciting then for them. But we're lucky today. I just want to give a big shout out to our show partner, Le Col. As you know, the title sponsor for Drops Le Col. That's the third part of this podcast. 3 separate YouTube videos, Paris-Nice, Stage 6, Tirreno Adriatico, Stage 3, and Healthy Aging Tour, Stages 2 and 3. Drops Le Col, British Conti team, they overperform. Not even just a meme, they're actually overperforming in the Healthy Aging Tour. They got a rider on 6 on GC. They're competing against riders, SD Works, who need no introduction, etc. So if you want to go and check out Le Col's Instagram, they've got a little photo diary and they've got a page on their website about Drops Le Col and them competing at Healthy Aging Tour. We'll have a link to that in the description to their Instagram. But first, Paris-Nice, Stage 6. I said in my preview, I got to self-plug myself on my own podcast. I said in the preview video that this finishing stage reminded me a lot of the stage to Swanse's in Vuelta Stage 10 last year. 3,000 meters plus of climbing, 203 kilometers, medium mountain stage with no steep climbs and no climbs lasting longer than about 12 to 14 minutes. Goes from Brignoles to Biot, and the final climb was 2 kilometers at 5.2%. And it reminded me, I gotta say the market's got it right, Benji, pretty much for the bundle of riders at the top. But Bennett was the favourite for Swanse's Stage 10 last year, but we didn't think that was a good idea because of this hard finish. They got Kavanagh in that team. He attacked last year, which we thought was a good move. They got Kavanagh here today to Koenig Quickstep. We thought Roglič, Matthews, and co were the favourites for the stage. We said that yesterday, or even Lutsenko from a break. But speaking of the breakaway, in that break was just Lutsenko, Elisond, Anthony Perez, Julian Alfares, Victor Campenaerts, and Jonathan Hiver. Are you surprised there weren't more riders in that break, Benji?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think we expected a bit of a different approach from some riders. I was looking more at a Freiler or something instead of a Lutsenko.
Yeah.
I think Lutsenko was a bit closer in GC, so that's why we budged towards Freiler
6
perhaps. Thomas de Gent, he was also not really there in the breakaway at all, so he seems to be having a bit of a relaxed start of the season, I guess, because we haven't seen him too much in breakaways. I think in UAE Tour we saw him twice, I think, in the breakaway for a tiny bit, but yeah, in this Paris-Nice it hasn't really been the case. Perhaps in the coming days we'll see. But yeah, I think I expected other riders, perhaps not more riders.
Yeah, I thought there'd be a few more, and because none of them were threats on GC and none of them were it wasn't a large group, they were allowed to pretty much do what they wanted for this stage. They got a gap out to 3 minutes and it just stayed like that. They cleaned up all the KOM points, they cleaned up the intermediate sprint seconds, etc. Eventually Perez and Alfares were dropped from that group. Elisonde was the strongest of them. Jumbo-Visma were pacing behind, and honestly we thought Roglič was a good chance for this stage. I think we know Roglič is so good at these finishes, so I don't even think Jumbo-Visma were just pacing for, because they felt obliged to, because they had the leader. I think they were also chasing because they thought there were bonus seconds on offer as well. But we'll skip forward now. They're chasing, bring the gap down gradually, Jumbo-Visma. And Elisonde is then the last rider in that breakaway. He's dropped everyone on this rolling medium mountain parcours. And 15Ks to go. He's got like a 13-second lead. It's dwindling down. We can see he's about to get caught by the peloton. And it was actually Cofidis, sorry Benji. Cofidis were the ones going nuclear on the front on one of those last descents. And who who did you think they were riding for at that point? Because I was confused. It's like Guillaume Martin not punching enough, Christophe Laporte a sprinter. They need someone who's like them combined. Like, what do you think their plan was?
I actually thought they were riding for Laporte, and I think we've seen that over the last couple of weeks that he's been coming forward more and more. Bessèges as well, but also in the last couple of years, he's been relatively decent at hilly sprints. He's good at the rougher stages that then end up in a mass sprint, but he's just also a bit inconsistent throughout the season. And I think on the races that really mattered, he never shined through and never achieved what he was hoping for. And I think he is slowly but surely crawling back to the level that I hope that he can ride in for an entire season here, because
dude, he's been at top level at Paris-Nice, like really impressive. I mean, we haven't liked some of his moves, but how many top fives does he have now? Anyway, like he's riding like a proper. I'll cover this our World Tour. They're not pro Conti anymore, but he's riding really really well. And I think he should go to the Vuelta, to be honest. But we'll get to that in a second. De Koenig Quickstep came to the front. They're closing Ellison. The Cofidis have done a lot of work because Jumbo-Visma weren't bringing it back quickly enough. And then Jonas Rutsch, the young German for EF Education Nippo, we've seen him. He's a big guy, big engine. Like Kavanagh, he attacks. At the place I said in the preview, perhaps, that Kavanagh might attack, or Cataneo might have gone in the breakaway. I thought they should have gone on the break, and they didn't. And it was the exact place you would see Kavanagh attacking, where no trains really assembled. If one train commits to chasing, they may burn themselves and leave their rider isolated. This is also a climb where you can lose time on GC if you are out of position or have to do too much work. Do you think were you surprised Kavanagh or no one else joined that Rutsch move?
Yes, because it basically forces De Koenig to keep pedaling in the peloton because Bennett was still there. And
they have to keep chasing.
Yeah, they seem to be going all out for Bennett at that point. And they had, I think, 4 riders ahead of Bennett at that moment, and they kept on chasing. And if they put Kavanagh on the breakaway, then they're forcing someone else to take over, the likes of a Jumbo or any other team that has interest. Yeah, exactly. So who would have chased? Cofidis again? I don't know. They didn't have too much either left, so it would have been much more difficult for anybody to catch the front group if Kavanagh was with Rutsch, for example.
And no one had full trains.
Like, it's also the kind of perfect stage I would expect a Kavanagh to do this on. I'm really surprised they didn't go for that tactic. I think they started the day saying if Bennett gets to that point, we're going to ride for him. And perhaps he deserved that after what he's done before. He's already done decent on similar finishes, but this one's like next level, I think, and is not really what I see a Bennett achieving something on. We said it yesterday.
But the stage in the Vuelta, Benji, the stage in the Vuelta we keep mentioning, Bennett was the favourite, but they still attacked with Kavanagh to put pressure on the other team. So it's not like you have to choose one or the other. If Bennett's good enough, he's good enough, but it allows you to keep that train intact as well by not chasing, as Benji said. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second. We'll maybe dive into that a little bit more afterwards. Rutsch goes. There's this pretty fast but a pedaling descent going into the finish. He catches poor Kenny Ellison. He's been in the break for like 3 hours plus. There's about a 40 kilo and 35 centimeter difference between the two riders. They're on the pedaling downhill. And Jonas Rutsch keeps flicking Ellison through. And Ellison didn't react. Ellison was like, are you kidding? If I pull, if I even could, I'd probably be slowing you down. And we'd lose this 10-second gap very quickly. So Jonas Rutsch, probably not the highest IQ plays there. I think he should have just focused on going clear. And like he was dropping Ellison on every rise. 4Ks to go. They had a 10-second lead, but this climb was still pretty, 10 seconds going to get eaten up very quickly on that climb. Alexander Vlasov had a mechanical, not a crash. He quickly changed his bike with Sobrero. Vlasov's quite a tall guy for a GC contender, like 6'2", I think. But Sobrero's bike was a little bit small for him, but like in a good way. Like it's better to be slightly too small, I think, changing over than to have a bike too big, which I think Dia Quintana's bike for Nairo looked a bit more uncomfortable the other day. Vlasov quickly got in the convoy on the descent before the climb and got back on, thankfully, for him. I'm not sure. Well, there wouldn't have been a 3-kilometer rule because it was a mechanical. Maybe mechanicals count the 3-kilometer rule. Don't know, Benji. Someone can correct us in the comments. Jonas Ruch gets mopped up with about 1,500 meters to go, and Bennett's still there. Buani's been dropped. Demar's been dropped as they hit this climb. And it's Seneschal leading out for Bennett, Benji. But you could see on the front on that Roglič was second wheel, Bennett was third wheel, Matthews, Laporte up there, and Bennett was already struggling. We're not talking in like the last 200. It's like the 1,200 meters. So what do you think about Seneschal continuing to pull? And could Seneschal have actually been a chance for this stage, Benji? I've seen him in some races, maybe Dwars-Durhed Hageland, a bit shorter climb, but against MVDP and Wout van Aert, he's not bad on these sort of finishes.
Yeah, he's not bad, but I also don't think he would have a real possibility for himself. Okay. If you're in that situation, if you've got Bennett near you, then I feel like it's more likely to ride for Bennett, because I feel like he deserved that from what he's done before this season. And if the climb was a bit easier and the tempo on it by the Koenig was lower, then Bennett could have gotten further. And that's where the Kavanagh play comes in again, because let's say Kavanagh did go for the attack. Let's say he forced other teams to try and take over to the front. I don't think another team would have closed down the gap to Kavanagh by the bottom of the climb. I think that they'd have to pull towards Kavanagh on the climb itself, and it wouldn't have been the Koenig doing it. And I'm not sure if the tempo would have been lower or more in
Definitely
the peloton.
Lower.
Yeah, I'd expect it too.
If Seneschal had stopped pulling under the Flamme Rouge, Benji, who would have pulled? Roglič didn't have a teammate. He didn't have a single teammate. He was on his own at that point. There's no Colbrelli for turns. I think Haig might not have been there for turns. It was just Martin and Laporte were the only teams with two riders that I saw.
I think that if that would happen, then Martin would have attacked at that point instead of, well, spoilers, he attacked a tiny bit later into the last kilometer and tried to surprise everybody. Unfortunately for him, that was not ideal. Move. But I feel like it was a great move, I agree. Because what it does is, if Martin moves past everybody in that final section, I think it was the last 400 meters, 450 meters, something like that.
He attacked at 500, yeah. So, just before then, Seneschal's been pacing. He drops Bennett out of the train. Bennett blows up. It's Roglič, Laporte. Matthews is there on that wheel. Roglič is isolated from like 700, 750. And yeah, as you were saying, Benji, Martin attacks at 500. Yeah, why was that good tactically?
It allows Laporte, who was sitting in the wheel of Roglič, to just sit there and basically be led to the finish line by Roglič, while Roglič would have to react to Guillaume Martin, spending energy. We'll go into this as well, a similar tactic in our Tirreno review in a bit. I think that's going to be the other YouTube video or the same podcast, depending on where you're listening here. But the Martin move basically puts Laporte in the perfect seat, but on the other end, it also puts more pressure onto Laporte, and that's the difficulty with this. You can attack
so
like Martin did.
You think he should have soft-paced? You think he should have gone on the front, ridden false tempo, because Laporte's the punchier guy, theoretically, than Roglič?
The thing about it is, I think that if Martin didn't make the move, Laporte would have been much closer to the victory today. Is that a spoiler?
Let's just get it. I'll just say what happened. Guillaume Martin attacks. Roglič closes him down like a long way on his own in the last 500, and then Roglič is just like, you know what, I'll just start sprinting for the win. I don't even care that there's anybody behind me. He's got Laporte, Michael Matthews, the guy that's like one of the only people ever to follow Phil Gill on the Cowberg, and who's won the Canadian races with hard climbs in it multiple times. Anyway, still climbing well, but he's got them on his wheel. It isn't the hardest climb. We just thought it was too hard for the pure sprinters. And Roglič, they literally can't even get up to Roglič back wheel or get out of his draft. Roglič wins easily, towing Laporte and Matthews to the line. Crazy win from him. He's already on insane form. The top 10, Roglič first, Laporte second. Still a lovely performance from Laporte and Cofidis, I think. Matthews third, Dylan Teuns fourth, Aurélien Perpintre fifth, very nice from him. Lucas Hamilton sixth. Maybe we've got some Simon Gerrans, Michael Matthews World Championships issues already with Matthews and Hamilton, Benji. We'll talk about that in a second. Brian Coquard seventh, Quentin Pacher eighth. Speaking of those issues, both on B&B Hotel, seventh and eighth. Sergio Henao ninth, and Chris Newlands 10th. The Latvian for Israel Startup Nation. Very nice finish for him too. But yeah, Roglič, Benji. We expected it. Should we be surprised that he's so good on a finish like this?
Not really after last year's Vuelta. I think you mentioned it at the start already, that stage where Bennett was a favorite in Sanchez was basically the stage where we announced the day before, this is never going to happen. No way in hell he's winning this. And it happened like that, and we knew that.
And it's not
the
just
likes of
Bennett.
Roglič,
It's any pure sprinter.
Yeah.
We didn't think Demar or Buani or Bauhaus sort of guys would win either. But yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, that's exactly my thought process. And additionally, I think we mentioned yesterday that we thought Matthews and Roglič would be the people that you'd expect on this kind of finish. But it always surprises me that Matthews seems to be just always missing out a tiny bit. And
I know.
It annoys me because you'd expect that he can really pull it off on this kind of finish. It's literally perfect.
He came third, Benji, on that sprint stage the other day, the pure sprint stage. He came third. And so my rationale, and it played out exactly as I thought it was going to play out, was, okay, I think Matthews is going to be the quickest guy. If you had to rank the riders in the top 10, who are the quickest guys in this top 10? I thought he was going to be the quickest guy that make the top 10. And then if you told me he's going to be on Roglič and Laporte's wheel the whole time in the last 400, and Roglič has had to chase down for 500 meters.
Yeah.
And there was just no burst, Benji. He just didn't have that acceleration, which we saw in Cherub. So is that what you were surprised by, that he couldn't come out of the wheel? Because I expected him to win from 300.
Yeah, I expected it to be much closer at least. I thought that Roglič looked to be in an ideal position in exactly the same way as in that Vuelta stage. So very unpredictable to expect Matthews' capabilities of winning something. Because every single time we say that he can win something, he doesn't.
I know, I didn't expect him to come in top 5 in any of the bunch sprints, and he came third. Third is not a bad result on a finish like this. I actually do think ultimately Matthews and Magnus Cort's a better example of this. Magnus Cort got dropped. They're better if there's been this climb, they stay with this lead group, and then there's the reduced bunch. What was the stage Benji won by? Was it won by Almeida in the Giro, where they all went over the climb? There's 4 quick-step riders with Masnada and Conrad sprinting, and Sagan and Ballerini had been dropped. And no, Ulissi won it. It was the second one Ulissi won, not the Agrigento stage. The second stage Ulissi won is where I think Matthews is actually really good, where it's actually a group of 10, and the sprint is on the flat, and the climb has made the selection. That's
the one where Sagan was behind, right? Where Mike and Conrad or
Sagan
something?
and Ballerini behind. And we were like, should quick step block. Magnus Cort, much the same. His stage win in the Vuelta last year was the same as a flat sprint. Roglič second still. But yeah, what about MSR for Matthews, Benji? I still think it's encouraging for him. I think he'll be able to stay. I don't think he'll follow the big boys on Poggio, but if they get caught, big if, I think he'll be pretty good from the group behind.
I think he's in the same situation as every single year, and I think that, yeah, he always has an opportunity, but it just never works out, does it? But last year he did come very close, but he also rode into a wall or something in the descent of the Poggio with his hand. Was it last year?
No, he got put into the wall when he was trying to follow Alaphilippe's attack on Poggio.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's not ideal. So that might have hindered his capabilities of winning. But then again, I don't think he would have been able to follow in any way. The riders that got away. And that's a problem here, I think, for Milano Sanremo in the coming few years, that you've got Van der Poel, Van Aert, Alaphilippe, and always these kind of punchers that can pretty much blow away on the Poggio, whilst a Matthews will attempt to hang on, and likely that's not going to work, looking at how this season has gone so far when it comes to Van der Poel, Van Aert, and Alaphilippe. But I guess we'll venture into that more once we go over Tirreno.
So you think Quickstep made a mistake today riding for Bennett?
Yep.
I think they did. I think they should have given the opportunity to Kavanagh, Cataneo, and then maybe Seneschal if it came back to a bunch sprint. Is there anyone missing out big time, Benjamin? Roglič, I think Schachmann's a weird rider, isn't he, Benji?
Yeah, he is.
He's such a weird rider. And this is why I like Schachmann. I love the Bora guys. I think they're funny. But when I did the preview, I was like, he has no chance of winning this Paris-Nice unless something crazy happens, because he's not a better puncher than Roglič. And all these intermediate sprints where he could try and mop up seconds, like he has been allowed to get a few now that Roglič is so far in the lead, but like the bonus seconds at the end of a punchy climb is still where Roglič has a massive advantage on Schachmann. And I'm still surprised though, Benji. Benoit and Schachmann, not 18th and 19th behind Van Baarle and Pierre Latour isn't a great result for guys trying to get bonus seconds.
I think the problem with Schachmann himself is that we've seen him like change the way he rides a bit. I think he has lost explosivity since 2 years ago. I think he started at Bora, went from the Koning to Bora. I'm not sure if it was called the Koning back then already, but he went to Bora and he started winning those stages in those Spanish races. I don't know. I can't remember if it's Catalonia or Basque Country, but I think he won 3 stages in a row, very similar to this one. And it was always a tiny hill at the end, and he just sprinted away in the last 800 meters, and nobody could react. And I feel like that has gone away a bit. He hasn't really shown that capability anymore afterwards, and he's moved more into, I'm going to try and attempt to climb better and be able to do relatively this.
Yeah.
And it feels like he's lost a lot of his explosivity there, or perhaps the competition wasn't that great in that Spanish race, but it would surprise me if it really was a bad competition, to be honest.
Benji, where the fuck is Benoit Coznef?
What is he doing? He's nowhere.
Oh yeah, actually, he probably would have got dropped in the middle of the stage with the sprinters. No, he wouldn't have. It was a pretty easy stage because the sprinters still made the. But why is he not here? I can't believe I forgot where he is. I think Coznef would have been coming top 3 in this stage minimum. Is he injured or unwell? He's doing Basque Country.
I don't know what he's doing. He should be doing Milano Sanremo and Strade Bianche and such.
His first race is Basque Country. He might have had a crash, Benji. I feel like he might have remember. Been yeah. But anyway, I think this finish would have really suited. And I got reminded him because of what you said about Schachmann, Benji. So you think like Coznef was pure puncher. He like any climb over 20 minutes, like over 15 minutes, just forget about him. But Schachmann, you're saying, is trying to be like medium mountain stage in the Tour de France, like Hirschi, but then you think he's lost his punch. Whereas, yeah, he used to have that really good punch in the last 800 meters. But still a pretty nice stage from Paris-Nice. Actually, it was better than the stage yesterday. Roglič in the absolute driver's seat on GC. Forgot to mention Brandon McNulty crashed and had to abandon.
Yep.
Real shame. Like this. To be honest, Benji, we've learned nothing in this Paris-Nice. Sam Bennett's way better than all the other sprinters, and we already knew that before the race. Roglič is way better than all the other GC contenders, and his main competition has crashed out. I wanted to see whether Ineos would pick Port or Geoghegan Hart, or how they would do with that and be aggressive. Unfortunately, both of them have crashed out. I want to see Port, I think, would have been... Yeah, I just want to see how they go. I want to see how Geoghegan Hart, McNulty would have gone on the long climb tomorrow, and we obviously don't know anymore. So, like, what's supposed to happen tomorrow, Benji? Like, well, Vlasov and Izagirre are supposed to attack Roglič on La Colmienne. I don't see it happening. So Roglič got a 41-second lead on GC on Schachmann, 50-second on Jon Izagirre, and 51 on Vlasov. I think everyone else is fighting for they're going to fight for their podium spots tomorrow, Benji, and I don't blame them, really. 120k stage. They've changed the route a little bit, but still the finish is the same. 16.2k, 6.2% climb, and Primož Roglič is going to win. So, yeah, do you think they're going to ride for GC? Am I being too cynical, Benji, or do you think something can happen to usurp Roglič?
I think there are people that are going to try and attack Roglič or do something about it. It's still Paris-Nice. It's not the Tour where they are super defending their second off that spot, but I still think there's nothing you can do about it. He's going to be more isolated. We've seen that before in this Paris-Nice, that he's not that surrounded. He doesn't have a Van Aert or something.
Kruijswijk could be better tomorrow.
Kruijswijk and Bennett will likely... it fits Kruijswijk, this climb. It's not really the steep section. It's like a steady gradient, so that should work. Bennett should always also be good on this, yeah. I don't see anybody being able to beat your boy Roglič here, but I somehow hope that Vlasov accidentally gets a bit of a 20-second lead on the climb, and then it's a 1v1 battle, and then it's gonna be fun.
I'm gonna go with
Oh no.
Roglič, obviously his favourite, but Lutsenko. Lutsenko, I think he's back to back. He's strong in back to back breaks in the UAE Tour. Lutsenko in the break, I'll be looking out for. He's a good chance. Han van Hoeke, don't know how much time he's lost. If he hasn't lost a lot of time to get in a break with Lutsenko, I wish he had. But yeah, Roglič the favourite out of the GC group. Hopefully there's a break. But that's our Paris recap